Welcome to day 338 of our Let's Grow Annual Challenge. We are going to jump into the SOAP framework today, my lovely backwards written graphic. S in the SOAP framework stands for story. We're going to identify two stories, not just one today, but our current story, what's going on in our life right now with respect to this area that we've identified as our biggest challenge right now, and our desired story. What do we want it to be? Eric, in Guide to the Let's Grow Annual Challenge private Facebook group, identified a couple of things. One, procrastination as one of his biggest challenges. And the other one was reactive communication, meaning he would just react to the situation emotionally and just automatically react without any filters or any thought ahead of time with respect to his reaction. It would just be, it's very authentic, but not necessarily authentic in a good way. So you can read his story in Guide 2 about how he identified his current and his desired story, what was going on right now, and then what he wanted. And why do we want those two stories? Number one, we want to be perfectly honest with ourselves in terms of where are we with respect to this challenge? What role have we played in this becoming a challenge for us? And what have we done about it? I mean, sometimes things happen outside of our control and we find ourselves in the midst of it. And we also find that we're procrastinating and not doing anything about it, or we're ignoring it, or we're acting as if it doesn't exist, which is the same as ignoring, or we're overreacting, right? So how I go about, and there's a lot of different ways to create and write your story, but I like to keep it really simple, especially as we're getting toward the end of the year. And I really want to get you to incorporate this tool into your toolbox and your repertoire of having things that can help make your life easier. And the SOAP framework for me has made my life so much easier and less dramatic and less procrastination. And it's improved every area and aspect of my life by having a process that I go through before I just automatically respond or react. Because I resemble very much Eric's experiences of just being reactive. When I was younger, I was extremely reactive. It's like, this is what I think, this is how it's going to be. And then something would happen, it would trigger, I would respond and react, and I wouldn't necessarily be in the way I best wanted to. But it gave me a whole lot of lessons learned along the way about how I did not want to show up in the world, show up in my businesses, show up in my life, show up in my relationships. So the first thing we do is we identify our current situation. We sit down with a piece of paper, and you don't have to spend a ton of time on this because you already know it. You're already living it. But I like to just write down a couple of notes or a couple bullet points or keywords of what's going on right now. What's the story of this challenge in my life? And challenge in my life, I think I'm going to use, I haven't done this assignment for today yet, my current story, my desired story. But I think I'm going to take one from Eric's playbook, and I'm going to use reactive communication, because over the years, I've gotten very, very good at a professional level of listening and, active listening and responding after questioning and finding out more, etc. In my personal life, not so much, right? With my granddaughters, I find myself, okay, I'll ask them to do something like 3, 4, 5 times, and then I get frustrated and I'm like, okay, this isn't working. And that's an overreaction of the response in the situation. I forget that little humans have a challenge, and big humans, some of us, have a challenge with transitions, going from one activity to the next, to the next, to the next. And I've learned over the decades to actually build time in and build transitions in to my personal schedule. And I'm like, why on earth am I not teaching my granddaughters to do that? So I think that my challenge area is going to be to communicate in a less reactive way with my granddaughters and start teaching them some of these lessons learned that I've learned, because that's one of the best legacies I can leave is, hey, if they don't have to learn about active listening, if they don't have to learn about paying attention, if they don't have to learn about thinking for themselves because they just automatically do that, it's a part of them. If they learn about journaling and affirmations and meditating and yoga and calming breaths and ways to manage their emotions and emotional intelligence, it's probably the best gift I can give them ever. So identify our current situation. That was a long way of saying, sit down, write down a couple of things about what's going on right now with the challenge area that you're addressing. It's different for each and every one of us, got a lot of them, and every single one. There's some in every area and aspect of our life that people have picked as their biggest challenge. Some people are struggling with their relationships. Some people are struggling financially. Some people are struggling with their physical well-being and health, or their mental well-being and health. Lots of people are having all kinds of crazy things going on mentally. And I think it's because society has contributed to this, which is outside our control, except it's not. We can control what of outside of us, what in society we let in. If we let in a lot of negativity, if we let in a lot of doubt, fear, limiting beliefs, guess what? That will start to show up in our life, because those are the things that are around us, and we'll start to notice them. So what's the current situation? What is the root of the challenge? There's all kinds of symptoms we can look at, but just like finding a root cause of a problem, what is the actual crux and root cause of our current challenge? For me, with the granddaughters, it is me being impatient and frustrated because I expect things to be different than they are. When I defined frustration as me expecting to have things be different than they are, all of a sudden I realized I had absolute positive control over how frustrated I felt about anything. I remember in one of my businesses early on, I was frustrated all the time. I always thought everything should be done faster, easier, more efficiently, and more effectively than it was being performed and done by myself as well as by other people. And I had all these ridiculous standards in my mind of how things should be. Guess what? Life is never as it should be. It's usually a conglomeration of all kinds of stuff that come together and explode. And sometimes the right things happen, or a lot of times the right things happen, if we have the systems and the processes in place to ensure that they happen. But I remember the day in my office that I realized, oh my God, I am frustrated all the time, not because of anything anyone else or anything else is happening, but because of my personal expectations of how I think things should be. And as soon as I let go of that, my frustration level, my stress level, my everything level actually dissipated. And now I think with the granddaughters, I just need a refresher. It's been, a decade, 3 decades now since that aha. So maybe it's time for a refresher course and to apply it to my relationship and my communication with my little baby granddaughters. They're not babies, they're toddlers now, but same thing. Then we're going to visualize our desired story. What do we want this to look like? What do I want our days to look like, and our interactions to look like, and our experiences together to look like? What do I want that to be? And what do I intend? And then what do I want to leave them with? Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I want to create a legacy of love and light and possibility and confidence and things. And, me getting frustrated and demonstrating frustration is not one. However, I can, when I do get frustrated, demonstrate in front of them how to handle that frustration in a positive way. My granddaughter will go, breathe, Grandma, which is, when your 3-year-old granddaughter is telling you to breathe, or saying, Grandma, tap, 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 and tap once more. She's got a little book called A Little Spot of Anger. You know that you got some work to do, and it's a challenge area. So we're going to identify in just a paragraph or so, or a couple of sentences, or bullet points and keywords, whatever works for you. What's your current story? What's your desired story? Long-winded way of getting at that. We've done it a dozen times if you've been with me in the challenge. So it should be almost second nature. If you want to use a more complicated tool like storyboarding or something else to come up with your current and desired story, I always invite you to do that. The more we practice different tools, the better we get at them. And guess what? Our brains think in pictures anyway, so maybe that works better for you. For me, I'm a journal writer. I write stuff down. Even if I can't see it without a magnifying glass, I still write it down. All right, that is our assignment or our action item for today. What's your story? You got your biggest challenge yesterday. What's your current and your desired story with respect to that? And then tomorrow we're going to jump into solving this for you once and I want to say once and for all, but I have yet to find very many things in our life that are once and for all. It would be nice if we learned the lesson the first time and we never had to repeat any form of it. But in my experience, that hasn't been true. Maybe for you it has. If it has, share in the comments below your secrets so I can learn how to do it too. All right, have an awesome day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.